So in part two of this tutorials, I will be talking about the pattern recognition app in MATLAB. And in this first window, you get an introduction for what the neural network looks like and what it does. And the first hidden layer has a sigmoid transfer function that is hidden. And in the output layer, you have a softmax output neurons that can classify the arbitrary uh, data. And you can use this for any kind of pattern recognition or classification or decision in neural network problems. So once we click next, we can load our data. And this time we will use a example where you have a 13 by 178 matrix of different attributes in wine. And then you have a target value of 3 by 178 that matches uh, the 178 and 178 of the different matrices. And this is our target value that either has a 1, 2, or 3 that relates to winery 1, winery 2, or winery 3. So we will import this data and click next. And here we can again define our training, validation, and testing percentages based on the 178 samples in the data set. And we will just leave it into the defaults. And in this window, we can then choose the number of hidden neurons within the hidden layer of the sigmoid section. And here our outputs are 3 based on the 1, 2, 3 vineyards, and our 13 inputs based on the 13 parameters that we analyzed on the wine. And in this window, we can train based on the conjugate gradient backpropagation function. Once we hit train, we get this window where we can see the performance of where the function converged based on the number of iterations and the best match in performance. And here it was 17, but it converged on 11. The error histogram, how much error we were able to obtain. The confusion. So from this data, we can see that the green is how many of the data in the data set given matched with either vineyard 1, vineyard 2, or vineyard 3. And this, if and there are any errors, it would show up on this white spaces. And here there were 0 spaces. And in this final block, it shows that 100% of the data was able to be fitted in the different vineyards, and 0% were error unable to be classified. So in this, you can see here in the validation of the confusion matrix, there is some error in output class 2. And here there's 3.7% error. And all confusion matrix, there was 0.6% error. The training receiver plot shows the different true positives in the validation tests of class 1, 2, and 3. The left bar and the top is what we want to show that we had the most close to true positive, and then the bottom shows the false positives in the data where we had some error in class 2. We can retrain this to more closely match. And so if we look back at the confusion, here we got error then in 3 in the test confusion validation. And so there's some discrepancy there. And so we can keep training until we are satisfied with our results. And then we can click next. And here we can then train again for our wine inputs and targets and test the network based on the confusion error and the percent error of the total given values. If we're satisfied, we can test again or continue. And then here we can then generate the script of this function to generate other data sets if you wanted to, where we can define X and our inputs and our targets based on a similar sized matrix where you have your rows and your columns, where we have matching columns. And it has the same parameters that we set in the app. And then we can then save this and run it again if need be.